Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly podcast. I'm your host, Gurdwara, and today we have John Palmer as our guest. Welcome, John, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Gurtesh. Thank you and good evening, and thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, no, we all know John, and we all are grateful for his contributions to the city of Tracy and Central Valley. But for the listeners who are seeing John for the first time, I'll request John to please share your personal and professional journey with our audience.
Sure. So my journey here in Tracy is probably not dissimilar to a lot of folks that we talk to and hear about, Gurtesh, and the fact that my family moved to Tracy in the late 70s, and it was really because it was a place where my father, as a police officer in the Bay Area, could move a family of five from the Bay Area to a house that, we were outgrowing our house in Livermore, so needed a little bit bigger house that was affordable and really was seeking an opportunity where we can buy not only a little bit larger house, but seeking an opportunity where my mother did not have to work anymore and she could stay at home and help raise myself and my two older sisters. So that was in 1979. So I came very young, went through elementary school, middle school, and Tracy, went to Tracy High, graduated, went on to UC Davis. And unlike many of my cohorts that were at UC Davis and moving on to, I think what they felt were bigger and better opportunities, I was really looking forward to coming back to Tracy. And a lot of people would ask why. I have very fond memories of growing up in Tracy. It was a small town. I was mentored by many different aspects, not only teachers, but coaches, close friends. And I really had an opportunity to come back and live with one of my really dearest friends. So when I came back to Tracy, I knew it was really a place where I wanted to raise a family. So I ended up marrying a high school sweetheart that we started dating after I got back to Tracy, got out of college. And we quickly, I think, shared a dream of living in Tracy and raising a family here in Tracy. Professionally, probably a little bit more up and down for the fact that I was, coming out of UC Davis, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for a career. So as I returned to Tracy in about 1995, a year out of graduating from Davis. I had, for a couple years, I had jobs, not careers. I was really looking for what I wanted to do. And in 1997, I was hired by the city of Tracy. I spent 8 years with the city of Tracy, felt that was also mentored there by some very smart folks that kind of opened up my eyes to not only a career, but what I wanted to do with my professional career. So after about 8 years at the city of Tracy, I had an opportunity to work on the private side and spent a year in land development and entitlement throughout the valley from Merced all the way to Sacramento. Was doing some work in Tracy and Manteca. And in 2005, I had an opportunity to come work for Tracy Hills, who I'm still with today, and had a great opportunity to be a key part of project management with Tracy Hills from the start of entitlement in 2005 through 2020, basically entitling a project through its first phase, through all aspects of agency permitting to now constructing a project that we're in our first phase, finishing our first phase, and now starting our second and third phase of Tracy Hills.
No, thank you very much, John. So as you shared with us, you grew up here, then you had to go for an education in UC Davis, then you decided to come back. So this is one of the key points. Many of us don't get that opportunity. Or the other thing is we have to always think about it. Yeah, we have to go back where we grew, where we kind of went to our schools. In if I talk about developing countries, so there's very less opportunities. Not everybody is fortunate, but here in developed countries, still in our cities, we are thinking about, or we are debating about, this brain drain thing. So what are your thoughts, so from your experience, for our school going kids or college going kids? So one thing is, what kind of thought process they can have if they want to come back, what thought process they should have. The other thing is the society, their parents, or these smaller cities, what their opinion should be towards bringing those kids back to their town where they grew up.
Yeah, and as I said, Kurtesh, I was probably the abnormal for the fact that when I graduated Davis, I knew I wanted to come back to Tracy, which at that time was even a smaller town. But it's where I knew I wanted it to be, because I had my friends, my family, and it's where I knew I wanted to be a part of. I'm lucky enough now with Tracy Hills to be a part of building the future of Tracy. And what you and I have talked about is, I think we really need to address for the young professionals, and really before they become young professionals, right? Those young adults that are going off to college, why would they come back to Tracy? And it's giving them a reason to come back, and addressing different product segmentation, housing where they can come and live. And I think we do need to address housing affordability here in Tracy. I think we do need to address employment opportunities. And we're lucky enough to live next to the greatest employment area in the world, in the Bay Area. And we have a lot of our folks that commute. We need to understand the strain of a commute on young professionals, and make it easier, whether that's looking at alternative ways to commute, looking at commuting virtually, which I think through the COVID year and this last year, we've seen a great opportunity. But I think lastly, what we're really trying to talk about, and what you and I have had discussions about, is getting young professionals back in our community with an opportunity to give back to our community and to be involved in the community. And I think that's where I have a lot of respect for you and the Sikhs of Tracy, in that's what I think really you guys are trying to communicate, is when you get to a point where you can give back to your community, you should give back to your community. So that's really what we need to do in making our community better and stronger, is getting the young folks and young adults an opportunity to be back in Tracy, live in Tracy, but really to find a way to give back through some type of volunteer organization or program.
Right. Yeah, no, John, that's a key point. As you mentioned, that COVID, this has changed, and it will change the whole concept a lot. The education, all the online learning, as well as the hybrid workforce. So all these things will change. So as a society, we have to grab this opportunity and brainstorm what else we can provide our school and college going students, so that they can decide to stay here. This society has given them a lot. They have lots of memories. They are aware of the grassroots problems, and they will eventually give back to the society where they achieved, or from where they got everything. So just on the same point, so you were awarded 2020 Community Award recipient as a male citizen of the year for the city of Tracy. So city of Tracy, they thanked you, or they appreciated your contributions towards the city. You are involved in multiple capacity. Whenever you have an opportunity, you give back to the society. So for our kids, for our listeners, so everyone is busy with their family as well as their professional life. So what was your thought process where you thought, no, I have to get involved to the society, whatever I can, I have to give back to the society? And the other thing is, what kind of opportunities or options were in front of you, what you opted, how you give back to the community?
So a lot there, Gurtesh, and I think it really, for me, I think there always has to be a little bit in you, whether it was the way you were raised by your parents, the way other folks influenced you, maybe younger in life. So I think a little bit of that willingness to give back has to be in you, has to be ingrained in you. I do think I had that, but I also think I I had some great mentors, and as I was starting off my career, I had some great mentors that basically taught me there really is an obligation to give back. And, when I touched on, can you give back? You are making sacrifices, but when you get to a point in your life where you can, I really feel it's an obligation to give back. We are all in this together and making communities stronger. Our communities are only strong and only get stronger when folks give back. And there is many different layers and many different ways people can volunteer. I'm involved in the Chamber of Tracy. I'm involved in the Boys and Girls Club. I've been involved in youth sports, whether that's basketball, football, or baseball. I've been involved in high school sports. In large part, it's because of my kids and what they get into. But I also see, that a lot of these programs, and I know you're involved in Boy Scouts, correct? It's
right. Yes.
We get involved in what our kids' interests are, but in large part, most people that are aware will notice that these organizations, need folks to lead, to be organized. And I think whether you start off, as a baseball coach in Little League, you will see that there is a board of Little League that really makes sure that there's programs available for hundreds and hundreds of kids, whether that's football, basketball, softball, Boy Scouts. For myself, I was involved in all of those early on when my kids were younger, but I also knew I had I just had a calling. I have a soft spot in my heart for youth, and the Boys and Girls Club I thought was the perfect outlet because really, we're helping the kids in our community that need our help the most. So I'm very proud of my work at the Boys and Girls Club. I'm very proud of my work with the Chamber. And the recognition of Male Citizen of the Year was a great honor. And, what I recognize is that honor, in large part, is due to the volunteer work that I've been involved in. So very proud of that.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. The main part you touched, it's the mentorship thing. So when you were growing up, you were seeing your mentors. So one follows their path. So now we all, as a parents, as kind of society members, we have the opportunities. Games, those are the wonderful things where we play with them, where we teach them, and the kids, they learn from whoever they see the good things, which they can incorporate and they can follow back. And John, yeah.
And I do, and Gurtesh, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I will say that youth sports and youth programs, Boy Scouts that you're involved in, or Girl Scouts, what really they're doing, they have to be fun for our youth, because if they're not fun, they don't come back the next day. But really what I think I recognized early on are these programs, they are teaching life skills. And in large part, the kids don't know it. I think the adults that are involved are aware of it, and the astute adults are very aware of it. But it's really teaching life skills through something that's fun for our kids. And I think across the board, we got to continue to recognize that. Just in general, I will say that, I will be out when I talk to anybody, I will say, get involved somewhere, somehow. And it's whether it is, there are other opportunities through service clubs. But I think our community is stronger when folks get involved.
Right. Yeah, no, John, one thing nowadays, what we are seeing from past 5 or 10 years, the internet, that has become more and more strong. So it's very challenging for the parents as well as for the kids to get away from their video games, from the internet thing. So as you're more and more involved with the sports, and you are seeing kids in day-to-day, how to motivate them to just get away from those things, what are your tips or suggestions to the parents as well as to the kids?
Gurtesh, I don't know if I have a strong answer to that question. I do think it's a problem. I do know participation in sports. People think it would be trending up, but I actually think it's trending down. So I do think it is a systemic problem that we do need to address. I think we need to think out of the box. I think, we need to think outside of traditional sports and what are other opportunities for kids to get off of phones, to get off the internet. I think as a community, we need to continue to offer a wide range of opportunities for our youth. And when I say that, I mean, aside from traditional youth sports, I think we need to look at other programs and we need to look at the arts. I think we have one of the most fabulous facilities in the region in the Grand Theater, and I think we need to continue to promote that as a community.
So for our listeners, does the city have some such kinds of programs where city kind of they get involved, like you mentioned about the Grand Theater? So that is a city organization that arranges, or it has many programs for the kids. For the sports wise, does city get involved, and how do the parents they can get value from those?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I'm probably not the expert on this, Gurtesh, but I do know that there are many different private leagues. There are, different club teams. But yes, I do know that the city does run through its Rex program many different sports and athletic programs at a range of affordability. I think affordability is not the issue, and I think, or I shouldn't say the affordability is not an issue. They do not make, they always make the fees reasonable, and they do address affordability for those that can't afford their fees.
Right. Yeah. The TYSL is one of the example where parents, they volunteer as the coaches, and it is very reasonable. So to our listeners, whoever wants to try, there are lots of opportunities. Yeah. Now as internet, so they can Google, they can see what kinds of options and opportunities their city provides. So now just going, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so now just going back to the chamber, as you mentioned that the chamber is a great organization. Maybe most of our listeners, they may not be aware what chamber does or how does it participate in the society. So can you share a little bit about the roles and responsibilities? And if one wants to learn more about the chamber, how can they do that?
So the chamber does have a website that provides a lot of information. The chamber lists the contact information to our staff, but also lists our board members. I think that the people that don't understand the chamber and its role, the chamber is really there to promote businesses within our city and our area. So that is one thing that's important. The Chamber of Tracy does represent businesses throughout South County, including Mountain House. So the main role of the chamber is to promote its business membership. And through that, there is many different opportunities, whether it's ribbon cutting events or different events that the chamber does host, which a lot of people aren't aware of, but most of the major social events in the city, whether it's the 4th of July parade, downtown events, are hosted by the Chamber of Tracy.
Thank you, John. So once one volunteers, they get to meet different people. They get to experience different issues. They get to experience different kinds of solutions in their minds. So from your experience, how do you see it as a value addition to whoever is spending their time towards a social problem?
Regarding the chamber?
No, just in general, in volunteering. So does it add value to a person itself, their own leadership skills, their own? So from your experience, do you see a value in volunteering?
So great question, Gurtesh. And I think when I accepted the Male Citizen of the Year award, one thing I recognized is I received the award because of my volunteer work. And I will say that the volunteer work that I do and will continue to do is probably one of the most rewarding aspects of my life. It's one of the most enriching and fulfilling aspects of my life in being aware that you are part of something greater than yourself or your household. I think in large part, most people think their family and their family unit is, what they're protecting as the most important thing. But I think having some awareness that you get to a point as we talked about earlier, that giving back to the community and giving back in different ways is very fulfilling. And when you ask, my whole family has gotten involved in volunteering for Boys and Girls Club, for the chamber, for different things I'm involved in. But I will say I've learned a lot because as you get involved and you volunteer with folks, you're exposed to folks outside of your cohort. And right now it's very difficult to talk about that because COVID has taught us, stay within your cohort, don't get out. But I think with getting involved in volunteer work in different boards, I've been exposed to the medical industry in a way that I haven't because of board members that are from the medical field or from the legal field or from, all kind of different walks of life. And we do have to get involved and make tough decisions and policy directions for the organizations that we're involved in. And you get to hear and learn a lot from different perspectives.
So John, Boys and Girls Club, so not many of us are aware of it. So it is in every city and it's a organization that is here since long. So it does add value to our youth. So will you please share some more about it? So if some kids, they want to get involved in it, their parents or somebody who is listening, they want to get involved more in Boys and Girls Club.
Sure. So the Boys and Girls Club here in Tracy, we run programs on 7 different sites here in Tracy, and we serve nearly 800 kids every day. The focus is on youth development and teaching life skills through different programs. And again, touching on what we talked about earlier, is making those programs fun, right? If it's not fun, the kids don't come back every day. But really, we teach skills, life skills through programs that are really fun and engaging. And again, I think oftentimes the kids that are involved, and they're kids from K through 8th grade, I think oftentimes they don't even understand that they're learning life skills through the programs that we offer. So again, it's programs on 7 sites throughout the city of Tracy. We target kids from K to 8th grade, and we serve over 800 kids every day here in Tracy.
No, thank you very much, John. It's very valuable. Whoever is listening, that's a great organization. At least we should be aware of these organizations, what are around us. We should be sharing with our kids. So at some point, if they want to join these organizations, they're more than welcome to explore online, or maybe ask whoever is the expert, like they can ask John or anybody, so they can direct them or just to the right channel, so how they can join those.
Yep, for sure. And we have the Boys and Girls Club Tracy, and it's BGCA at Tracy. BGCofTracy.com is our website. Offers a ton of information, and it gives you information about the programs, including the one and only inclusionary program in the city of Tracy. So the Boys and Girls Club, we do offer an inclusionary program. That's the only inclusionary program in the city.
So John, growing up in this city, you have seen this close-knit or family-oriented city growing rapidly. So at this point, yeah, it has grown from whatever you have seen, but right now what the phase is, it's growing tremendously. So how do you suggest the citizens, they can add value to have that small town feel in the city of Tracy? So
interesting question, Gurtesh. So I moved to Tracy when it was just over 15,000 people. It is now, I believe, over just about 95 or 96,000 population. So I've seen tremendous growth through, so when I moved here and went to high school in the 80s, it was a one high school town, and you had that real small town where you knew everybody, or if you didn't know somebody, you saw them on a regular basis because it had that small town feel. Now that we're at multiple high schools at 96,000 people, I think one thing that I will say is it still has that small town feel. And I think Tracyites pride themselves on that because we are a community that gives back and gets involved. I think that's the theme of what we're talking about tonight is, that value added in being involved and getting involved and really maintaining that small town feel, right? You know your neighbors, you know folks, you see people downtown. I know you're very involved, Gurtesh, so you see a lot of people in many different aspects. And I think that is an attribute of our community that continues to facilitate that small town feel, is the fact that we do have a community that gets involved and participates. So I think that is an important aspect of having that small town feel.
Yeah, no, and with the diversity as we have in our city and these kinds of engagements, it allows us to learn or even communicate with somebody from a different, coming from a different thought process. But when we kind of interact, we all see, yeah, we all share the same American values. So there should not be any hindrance. We should be communicating more. We should be participating, time permitting. So whenever somebody has a time, so that's what our kids will see. They'll get more and more involved in our town.
And you and I talked about, I talked about my, probably my largest influence in my life was my father. And I think most of us will talk about the influence that either a mother or father had in your life. My father, one of his largest influences was his ability to form relationships. And he always told me, to be a good listener, build sincere relationships, listen to folks, listen to what they say. And I think you and I talked and shared about that thought that, really that's what it's about. When we're building sincere relationships, we're listening to people, listening to different perspectives. That's the value added. Make sure you understand where somebody's coming from, and it's okay to have a different perspective. It's okay to disagree on something, but maybe give somebody the time to let them explain why they have a different thought. We only get better because of differences. If we all thought the same and thought and acted the same, we wouldn't challenge ourselves, right? We wouldn't push ourselves. So I think, having differences is okay, but listen to folks. Give folks an opportunity to explain their differences.
Right. No, John, for one problem, there are multiple solutions. So those multiple solutions are multiple thought processes. So we cannot say, okay, my thought process, what I'm thinking, that's the right way to approach the problem. So there are 10 or 20 ways we can solve the problem. If we brainstorm, we can just solve it. That's how the things work. So we should be working together. We should be patient. And the thing is, good listener. So that comes gradually, but that's the key point everybody has to have in their mind. That should be their goal, to listen to somebody, to assimilate the information, then react. So now in our society, that's the drawback. We are just closing our thought process. We are just hindering the listening part. We always jump on conclusion, or we always have something that is in my heart to say before listening to somebody.
I agree. And that really has been our strength, is our diversity, right? And I think that's what we got to continue to celebrate. So I will continue to advocate that, I know, as well as you will. And your organizations and your involvement is making sure that people do listen, doing the best we can to be good listeners and to practice what we preach, so to speak. But I really think it is an attribute that I have that's been probably my strength in character, is being able to listen and build strong, sincere relationships.
Yeah, no, that's a tough task, but yeah, if somebody moves forward, they will definitely find value in this if they start to just forming a habit to listen to somebody, what they are saying. And in the end, John, if I miss something you want to share, and as well, so message for our school and college going students you want to give.
Yeah, and I apologize because I actually feel like in large part I talked too much and rambled, and we talked about making sure we were a conversation. But I think the focus for the young adults, and specifically the young professionals and young adults that are looking to relocate or come to Tracy, maybe you grew up and you moved on and you're looking to come back, is come back, get involved. There is great opportunity, and what I'm seeing is we have a golden age of our population, the baby boomers, who are starting to retire out of professions but they're also starting to retire out of being volunteers in the many different organizations. So we have the biggest need that we've ever seen to have young folks get involved. And we need to find a way to make it engaging for them. They might want to get involved in a different way, but help us learn, help us, expand our organizations, whether it's the organizations that I'm involved in, or Gurtesh, I think the organizations that you're involved in. We need young people to be involved.
No, thank you very much, John. And with that, I thank everybody for watching. And please do send us questions that you need get answered. John is here in our city, always available, or you can send those questions to me. I can forward it to John. And also, please share us with the topics that you want to listen in the next episode. Stay healthy, stay informed. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Gurtesh. Good night.
Good night.